everyone, and welcome back to She Plays the Podcast. I am so excited today. I've got two guests on, such a treat. I've got Amanda Rutland and Kristen Pojunis from the San Diego Super Bloom. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Amanda, the season's just getting started. You had opening weekend last weekend at the time of this recording. How are you feeling about this new season, and what are you looking forward to really in this first month of getting it kicked off?
I think we've got a lot of growth that we can do this year. I think we had a little bit of a rougher opening weekend than we were hoping for a number of reasons. But I think that we really showed there's so much potential in this team this year, and that we have a lot of room to grow into that, and that I'm really excited to see that. There's a number of players that we hadn't had enough opportunities to play with kind of in the preseason time. And so getting to start those opportunities and really getting to dive into games is really exciting.
Very cool. Yeah. And Kristen, what is the preseason atmosphere like? I mean, I know there are tryouts, and then it's not very long, right? To have some time to practice and try to gel, because you're also all doing this on top of other jobs, I think. So yeah, what's preseason like typically?
Yeah, so it usually really kicks off in January. This year we pulled our tryouts up a little bit to be really COVID conscious. That was something we struggled with in 2021, is trying to do tryouts in January. We actually had to cancel some of them and push them back out of an abundance of caution for our health and the community's health. So we did tryouts really early in like the beginning of December, and then kind of had a waiting period through the holidays, and then really got things going in January. It is, like you said, a lot. Most folks are either working a full-time job or in school. And so trying to get in shape after the holidays, like you really have to carve out time from your day. You can't be doing field workouts in the dark, or most of us would choose not to. So trying to find that to be a priority. And then too, a lot of us hadn't played together before. So trying to gel and establish a team identity and what our goals were took a lot of work off the field as well.
Yeah. And what do those conversations look like? Is it like a retreat where you spend days together, or is it you've just really got to be intentional? What's that like?
Yeah, great question. Again, with like everyone's responsibilities outside of Super Bloom, it can be really hard to step away for, let's say, a weekend. And then the budget is relatively tight, so like trying to be mindful of that. So we were actually hosted at the homes of one of our coaches, and then just took like a 3 or 4 hour block on a Saturday evening to go over who we are, what our goals are, and then to even just kind of share what playing at this level is like for folks that were new to the team this year, because it can be a really big jump from some of their previous playing experiences. So we were limited to like a couple evening sessions, and even one of those got pushed to remote, again, out of an abundance of caution due to COVID concerns.
Yeah, well, it sounds wild, but how important that is. It is so vital to get chemistry growing and going off the field and on the field. I know, Amanda, you've been playing Ultimate, I think you said like sports your entire life, Ultimate for 13 years. So where have you seen, like Kristen mentioned, like the jump from, I guess, maybe like college or club to this professional level?
Mm-hmm.
What are the differences, would you say?
I think the pressure level is very different. So especially when growing up, playing a club sport, I played club soccer, you feel pressure from coaches and from teammates and from high school and from recruiters and any of that stuff. So there's some pressure in that, but in the grand scheme of things, you're still a kid running around playing a sport that you love. I think then getting into like club Ultimate, the pressure per game is lower. Even if you're on a team that's trying to make nationals, trying to make a bid for a high spot at nationals, the pressure on your season is high, but the pressure on individual games isn't as high, because you're playing 7 games at a tournament. You're going to play 4 preseason tournaments or 3 preseason tournaments. And then you still have your shots at sectionals and regionals. So there's less pressure in a single game. In our league, there's 8 games, right? This year, there's going to be 8 games. Every single game is that high pressure situation. And so handling that much pressure within, the 2-hour time frame of a game is a huge difference. Also just the visibility, knowing that you're being televised, knowing that there's commentators that are talking about your play and your game and your teammates. That also adds that level of pressure, but also the level of excitement and being able to share it with everyone that can come on and watch the stream and be a part of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, and question I'll ask both of you, and don't worry, I'll make sure that like none of your competitors listen to this until after your season. But what is maybe like one thing you do yourself to help your mentality? I mean, that's a lot of mental strength and mental pressure that you're fighting off there. What are some things that you tell yourself of, okay, I missed that throw, or I missed laying out and catching that, like get back up? Kind of what are some of your tricks?
I think for me, it is like rereading positive feedback that I've received from coaches or people that I respect. And then also trying to visualize myself doing something well that I've done in the past. With the visibility that Amanda talked about, there's also downsides of like when you make a mistake, it might get discussed on Reddit or on Twitter, and sometimes by people that you know pretty closely. And, I think it's a little bit different where in our situation, we're not far removed from fans, right? These are people maybe that we've played against in the past. And so I think having a way to build that mental toughness is really important for being able to manage this platform that we have.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would add to that, one of the techniques that I've used in the past is just reminding myself that I know the basics, like reminding myself of all the hours of practice I've put in, reminding myself of all of the workouts I've done, that I know that I'm in shape, reminding myself that I've laid the foundation, and trusting that foundation. So when I find myself getting nervous, or I find myself really feeling the weight of that pressure, I kind of take a step back and say, like, you've gone to so many practices, you've worked out so many times, you've put in the foundation work, trust it, and the rest will come. And so that's the mentality that I kind of try to use to get through those places.
I love that. Yeah, so good. And I think that it's such a great just life tip too, of like especially fighting imposter syndrome wherever it can show up, whether it's on the field or just, no, like I've done this a million times, like trust that I know and I'll perform and whatever it is. That's really great. Thank you both for sharing that. I do want to chat. So yeah, there's a stream, there are commentators. What has changed from last year, which was technically the first season for Western Ultimate? How has it like kicked it up a notch this year, and what are you most excited about?
I think the social media coverage by the league in particular has really raised the quality, the advertising, and then there's storylines now, right? Like, it's like our first weekend was a rematch of the 2022 championship weekend. So there were storylines, there were expectations, and there were some rivalries there. And that has made it more exciting, and like has just made it, the history has made it so much more fun.
Very cool. Amanda,
Yeah,
what about you?
I agree. I think that there's also, people who maybe the first year that I talked about it were like, oh, sure. And now that it's again, they're like, oh, wait, you're doing this again? This is still happening? I'm like, yeah, this is still happening. This is still a thing. It's going to just keep getting bigger. And so I know this past weekend, I had friends reach out that were like, hey, I caught your game. I watched it with my dad. Like, we really loved it. That never watched a game the previous season. And so I think just, as Kristen said, establishing that fan base and establishing the like storylines of continuing from year to year will really help grow the sport. And even this year, it's already growing it, which I love.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really cool. It's just so neat to feel a little bit of that validation of like, yeah, we're on the right trajectory of people who are tuning in. Now they've heard it. Now they're taking that next step of, oh, I'm actually gonna like actively watch it. Which why wouldn't you when it's such high quality? It's just so good. So that's awesome. I do want to make sure we mention and talk a little bit about the fact that you are professional athletes on top of also having day jobs. Could you just both tell listeners real quick what your day jobs are? Because get ready to have your mind blown. What are your day jobs? Kristen, we'll start with you.
I am a manager of compliance engineering at Illumina. It's a DNA sequencing company based out of San Diego.
And I am an associate director of automation engineering at Quest Diagnostics, which is one of the largest clinical diagnostics companies in the country.
I mean, so okay, like that's insane, right? And then so on top of this, you also, yeah, you have your families and whatnot, but then also being a professional athlete. So what?
Yeah, I should add that I also have the title of mom.
Yes, yes, yeah.
I should include that in part of my work titles. That is also one of the titles. Hi, Charlie. I love you.
That's awesome. Hi, Charlie. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a conversation that I have a lot when I talk about women's sports and female athletes, is that people still don't realize what sacrifices are being made by athletes to do what they love. So I guess a couple, maybe some questions would be like, what's really hard about it? And then like, why do you feel like it's worth it? So yeah, those are the two questions. What's really hard and why do you think it's worth it? Amanda, let's start with you.
So the hardest thing is time away from my family. I was lucky enough to do one of our kind of social media takeovers last year for one of our tournaments. And I got asked a similar question and I really took a deep dive, and it's really the time away, right? I'm missing things. I'm missing experiences when I'm away for the sport. It also is a toll on my body. I was lucky that I was able to really work back from my pregnancy and get into really good shape. I was lucky to have a fairly easy pregnancy and a fairly easy delivery, which allowed my body to be able to recover to get to a point where I can play a sport. So, the toll on my body and the time away from my family is the hard things. The best part is that my daughter gets to see that she can do anything. Right. And she gets to see a mom who is working and doing the sport she loves and pursuing it and trying to push that forward. And she gets to see a dad who's completely supportive of his female partner. She gets to see a man in her life who is willing to take on a lot of the extra house load so that his wife can go and pursue this thing that she loves. So she gets to see both of those things. And I think if more young people are able to see both of those things, our society would be a lot better. So that's probably the best thing for me.
Awesome. Thank you. Kristen, what about you?
I think something that comes up is like the tension where if I take like an hour and a half lunch, right? Like, am I not doing enough for my day job, right? Is that hurting me? Am I being perceived as less committed? And I definitely feel a lot of pressure to put in 10 to 12-hour days, but that isn't conducive to some of my other goals, right? And trying to be really consistent with my lifting program and eat well and be present for my partner and dog, right? And not just head out to bed after all that. So that can definitely be a challenge. And then I swear, like the most stressful weeks with work always line up with like a big tournament weekend. I don't know how it happens, but I'm never working a 6-hour day before like a big game. And so that can be really challenging of just even doing stuff like making sure you're hydrated and are packed. And like it can definitely jeopardize like my focus on the weekend of I couldn't I couldn't do the film study that I wanted that week. Like that is what was on the chopping block. And that can be really hard. But the experience is like incredible. And I am like so inspired by the idea that little girls and little boys will have female athlete role models to look up to. And that is like so exciting to me. And yeah, it was like such a big part of my growing up that like I want it to be the norm.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah. I mean, so inspiring. It's a lot. I mean, even I think just have a job and survive is a lot right now, right? And then throw on all the other things that you're both doing. It's truly inspiring. And I mean, I'm sure you hear this and you probably say this to each other, but what you and your teammates in the league are doing is still trailblazing. And it does take that extra effort to try to build something from the ground up. So I hope that you see that and recognize yourselves as that and really can pause and like take pride in what you're doing and what you've already accomplished. It's already insane how much it's grown and yeah, so super exciting. And we'll get to some rapid fire questions in just a second, but I do want to make sure we mention, yeah, like there's a stream. So where can folks watch your games? If they're in San Diego, where can they come watch in person? And where can they follow the Super Bloom and both of you?
So all of our games are streamed on the Western Ultimate League YouTube channel. That's true for all teams in the league, kind of a one-stop shop. And then Super Bloom is on both Twitter and Instagram under Super Bloom Ultimate. And then I am on Twitter under @Kristen Pojunis. That's KRIS10 POJUNIS.
So I'm not as big on social media. I am very much posting with Super Bloom, but I am actually pretty private on my social media. But you can find me on the Social Bloom Instagram.
Awesome. And we'll put all those links in the show notes. So just click and follow, go support, and definitely check out some games on the stream. It is really, really fun to watch this sport.
Yeah, and our website has so the Super Bloom website has our full schedule, and you can see all the home and away games there, and come out and check them out. We've got in 2 weeks, or I guess, I don't know when this is going to be posted.
It'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow. So is that too soon? Will that have just happened? Whatever you were just about
It
to
might have
announce?
just happened, yeah. But check out the website because it's got the full schedule on there. I believe our full schedule is also pinned on our Instagram.
Perfect. Awesome. So there you have it. No reason to miss a Super Bloom game. Okay, you got time for just a couple rapid fire questions each?
Sure.
Bring them. But I have to say one thing, Ashley, like I love what you said about us being trailblazers. But like your support is incredible of like amplifying these leagues and these voices across the entire spectrum of women's sports. You're so cool. Like it's so awesome to be here with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. A little emotional. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Women supporting women.
Right?
Gets me every time.
There we go. A rising tide lifts all ships. I love that. Okay, real quick. Just first thing that comes to mind, okay? What is your favorite like sports drink, whether it's Gatorade, Powerade, water, whatever the case may be? Kristen, we'll start with you. Favorite sports drink?
Pedialyte. It helps me recover and keeps cramps away.
Favorite flavor?
The blue one.
Okay, great.
I don't know what it's called.
Love
it. Noon with caffeine. The Sport Plus caffeine Noon wild berry.
Love it. Gonna check that out for sure. What do you think in your personal play? What has been like the one play or move or catch or throw, whatever, that you were just like, dang, I just did that? What's like your personal favorite highlight reel of yourself? Amanda, we'll start with you.
At Club Nationals one year, I got a D on a handler and I D'd it about 20 yards positive for our team and then caught a score. That's one of the highlight reels that lives in my head.
Awesome.
Mine was my senior year of college. We were playing UBC. who we had previously just gotten absolutely crushed by. And I was fully horizontal catching a goal, half inbounds, half out of bounds, and then just kind of like dolphin kicked my toes to tap inbounds. And we ended up winning that game to move on in the bracket. So it was a very meaningful play and a meaningful goal.
That's awesome. That is, both of those sound awesome. I can see them like in my mind. What's your favorite location you've ever played? Like favorite place you've traveled to, or?
Santa Cruz. So there's a college Santa Cruz tournament and a club Santa Cruz tournament that are on these fields at UC Santa Cruz that overlook like the harbor and everything down there. It's just like absolutely gorgeous. I love playing on those fields.
Awesome.
I got to play in Perth, Australia with the under 24 national team. And not only was it like warm and gorgeous, it was also like super cool to just get to play internationally.
Very cool. That's awesome. Both of those. I might have to, Santa Cruz is a little closer for me, so I might go check those out. But Perth, Australia is on the bucket list for sure. Okay, last question. I asked this for everyone. If you could get free tickets for life for any sporting event every time it comes around, if it's like every 4 years, Summer Olympics, every year a national championship of some sort, what are you getting free tickets for life to?
Women's World Cup soccer.
Love it. Speaking of Australia.
Exactly.
Kristen, what are you?
Probably the same answer, but I will do it to any championship UCLA is in.
Okay. Love it. There you go. Bruin through and through. All right, cool. Well, thank you again so much for being here, for sharing bits of your story, and just again, like highlighting Western Ultimate League and the San Diego Super Bloom. Please follow them, use the links in the show notes, tune into a game, go support if you're local. And just thanks again, Amanda and Kristen, for your time. Really excited for your season and cheering you on.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks so much.